Kappei has just released Arc 8, Chapter Interlude, Ubilk. This video will be a summary of the chapter. I highly recommend you check out my Arc 8 previous chapter summary video. Anyways, let's begin. As you know, Ubilk is a stargazer. His goal is to save Wallachia from the Great Disaster. He was a simple male prostitute, but due to this reason, he was then granted another special privilege. He was chosen as a stargazer. He considers himself to be fortunate, despite the fact that stargazers usually have a disastrous path. Ubilk is of course glad he has a role that he can fulfill. After all, he would have been a nobody without it. Ubilk had fulfilled his role as a stargazer, and as if a fog was lifted from his mind, he lost that qualification after fulfilling his role. Despite that though, his goal was to save Wallachia, yet he was released from being a stargazer, which means he no longer has a role to play. Ubilk was left in the fortress of Guaral, and wonders if he lied to Vincent and said that he still had a role to play, would he have been allowed to go to them to the Imperial City to take part in the final battle. Ubilk felt alone. People were currently prepping for battle, but Ubilk had no fighting experience. He had no need to learn how to use a sword. After all, he was a stargazer. He had a role to fulfill. Ubilk wonders if there was another great disaster, would he once again be bestowed his position as a stargazer? Let's say for example someone important dies, meaning that Wallachia will turn to ruins. Would he once again be needed to avert the destruction of Wallachia? The chances of being chosen again are not zero. Ubilk knows that they are very secure. It would be impossible for the undead to truly reach them. Ubilk of course wonders about unbolting some of the gates to make it easier for the undead to break in. As he thinks to himself, Katya then asks what he is doing. Ubilk says he was slacking off. Ubilk asks Katya how she functions despite being disabled, and Katya says that she likes doing stuff or else she wouldn't feel comfortable with herself. Katya says that her fiancé died, and Ubilk says that it must have been hard on her, but Katya says to not speak like that and to mind his own business. After all, he doesn't know what she's really going through. Katya says that she will continue to do more, and asks Ubilk to get a job or else he will not be doing anything, and if anything he'll be seen as doing less than someone in a wheelchair. Ubilk praises Katya, saying that she is one of the reasons why Wallachia will not die. This was the liberation of Ubilk from his role as the stargazer. The scene changes. Rem sighs after hearing the story from Katya, telling Katya that maybe the man would have gotten mad at her and attacked her. Rem says to not be reckless when she isn't there. We see that Rem is also there, and she's making use of her healing magic. Katya is also trying to do things to overcome the loss of her fiancé, Todd. Even Jamal has proclaimed that he is going to his death. Rem asks Katya to gather some cloth, and Katya says that she can use her lap to carry them. However, they're interrupted as Petra calls out to Rem. We see that with her there is Frederica and Ram. Rem knows that these are supposed to be her friends, but she can only gauge her relationship with Ram. Ram wants them to chill out, and Ram asks Katya to come along, as she is of course Rem's friend. Katya says Ram is similar to Rem, but she's a bit different, but she's also really pushy. Rem turned around and saw a flash. This was a signal from the Watchmen. Immediately everything changed. Frederica grabbed Katya's wheelchair and told her to not bite her tongue, as she ran furiously. Ram asked if Rem was ready. Rem says that what happens if she isn't ready, and Ram says that she has made sufficient preparations for Rem's heart. Rem and Ram followed Frederica whilst thinking of a small boy who wasn't there. By the way, Rem is thinking of the small boy, which is of course Subaru. The scene changes. Despite the evacuation of the Imperial capital, the damage was limited thanks to Kathma. His thorns had prevented a lot of damage to the city. It has currently been 50 hours since Kathma has decided to fight to the death, as he attacked the hordes of undead. He couldn't let himself fall down here. However, a voice calls out to him telling him to stand down. We see that this voice belongs to Goss. Goss says that he and Selena will now take over. Kathma wants to fight, but Goss tells Kathma to stop. After all, Kathma is currently being eaten from the inside by his own insects, and Goss tells him to rest. Kathma says that he will fight to the death, but Goss's aura is so powerful as he shouts at Kathma, saying that death is not redemption. Even the insects inside of Kathma froze in fear. Goss says Kathma will help rebuild the empire with the emperor. With that, Kathma apologizes to Goss. The scene changes. Selena and the Prime Minister discuss the defenses, supplies, and qualities of fighters on the battlefield. The city of Garkla has now turned into a battlefield. Only when Subaru and the Emperor finish the events of the royal capital, namely with the undead, can they move on to the next phase of the war. Anastasia says that if Wallachia falls, Lagunica and Kararagi are next. Selena grabs their attention. All of them will be fighting off the invaders. Selena says that she will be relying on Anastasia, and Anastasia says to not worry, as he has never let her down as far as she remembers. The scene changes. We see that arrows rain down from the heavens. The Shadrakians release thousands of arrows which gouge the wings of the undead wyverns which are attacking the city of Garkla, and they are knocked to the floor. Not only that, Julius shouts "Al Cluseria!" and a rainbow light forms a barrier to block the attacks of the dead wyverns. We see that Julius's barrier is protecting half of the citadel of Garkla, meaning that this is the prime offensive and defensive technique. Julius then flips his kimono and he looks up full of confidence, and he says that he is doing his duty and he will continue to do it. And he then says Subaru needs to fulfill his, and with that the chapter ends. So for those wondering, this is an interlude chapter that was included with the latest volume of ReZero. So of course, now that the web novel is going to restart again, Tappei has to get out this interlude chapter. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.